Hello and welcome to Forward Moves, a podcast hosted by Raja Haddad, a conversation with our guests about the path of their successful journey and what keeps them moving forward in an ever-changing environment. Hello, Bader Najeeb. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm thrilled to have you with us today. For our listeners and viewers, Bader Najeeb is a 29-year-old Emirati chef, and I can stop here. Because to be honest, that by itself is considered as an achievement. At such a young age, an accomplished chef is quite impressive. But I think we need to say something more. He's a self-taught chef and culinary sensation from Dubai. He began his journey, and you tell me if this is right or not, in the kitchen at the age of 13. Inspired by your mother's baking tradition and guided by online tutorials. By age 18, he had already hosted 2 TV cooking shows, an impressive feat for someone who, by his own admission, was not yet a professional chef. After obtaining his degree in accounting from Dubai's Man College and a stint of positions in the corporate world, including Emirates Airlines catering division for the business and first class offer, Bader decided to pursue his true passion and studied in Lucerne, Switzerland, a place dear to myself, where he got his grand diploma in Swiss chocolate work and sugar art. And that was not the only accolade he received, because Bader also won the gold medal in the pastry and confectionery category at the 44th World Skills in Abu Dhabi. Bader is known for blending traditional Emirati cuisine with French techniques, as exemplified by his inventive roche sakr, nest of falcon.
Long time back.
Long time back, exactly. But still, I found it. Where he adapted a classic crepe using balalit, the vermicelle and egg that we have in our Emirati cuisine, to create a very unique Emirati dessert. He is currently running his own project entitled Burnt Orange Cafe. So, I always start with this question. And you just told me, that was a long time ago. But I want to go even further. What initially sparked your interest in cooking? I know it's a conventional question, but it's not like when was the first time you prepared the dish. But where did you have that first inspiration? Which, I'll be honest with you, it's not something we associate with youth in the region, with Emirati youth, but you had that spark. When did it start?
I believe, as you mentioned, I used to say a few years back, but now since I'm 29, so it's more than 10 years ago. In the kitchen with my mother, I would say, when she was baking every Saturday for my grandfather's house. I would always help her with the mixing, and that's where the passion towards, I would say, baking started.
Yeah. So you would stick your finger in the dough as your mom was preparing.
Yeah, and I would say I made it.
Yeah, and then you would say, of course, you will claim the glory for that. So was did that play a role in inspiration? That family environment, the family meals, the gathering, and the preparation for that meal, did that play a role in?
I would say definitely, because that also brought up the love of hosting as well. So I love to host friends or family and then cook for them. So definitely we were always surrounded by family, always had family gatherings every weekend, whether it's my dad's side or my mom's side of the family, visiting the grandmothers. So that always created the love for hosting and cooking, I would say, because as I do believe cooking and baking brings people together.
Yeah, so it's the importance of the table of creating that sense of community, whether it's family, immediate family, or the larger family, or even our community where we evolve. So that's what kind of triggered that passion for cooking.
Exactly.
Was it difficult? Because we saw that it's self-taught, so there's the passion that was driving it. But, anything that is self-taught is challenging, yet alone cooking.
I think it was challenging more back then. You couldn't find that many shops that were dedicated to pastry and baking and cakes, let's say, because I started with cakes mainly. So I would watch these YouTube videos and I would learn so much about these shops that they would have in the US, let's say, that would have different ingredients, sugar paste, fondant that would cover the cakes. So those were challenges that I could not find here. Like they were available, but they were always available in bulk, and you had to be someone who can obtain it as a supplier.
So like industrial level for
Yes.
hotels and restaurants, but
Yes,
not
and
for individual.
Definitely.
Yeah,
And being that young, it would be very hard to reach such levels, especially when it's
course.
starting as a hobby. Because as I was a kid, I would try out everything to see what clicks.
Yeah.
Like you try out all of the hobbies, and your parents would put you in karate classes, horse riding, swimming, to see what clicks. And I would say mainly I started with clay work, like creating charms and stuff out of clay. We used to have something called YEC, which was Young Entrepreneur Competition that would happen every year in Dubai. So it used to be, I think, in Wafi, and then it became in Dubai Mall. So I would participate almost every year, even with Comic Con, where I would make these miniatures out of clay, where you would bake them and then you would use them as keychains, accessories, and so on. And then I remember I would always watch YouTube videos to create these charms and accessories. From there, I remember I came across one video that was called Fun with Fondant. I will never forget the name of the video. So I thought that it was clay figurines that they would create, that I would, because I remember Comic Con was coming up again, so I wanted to create these comic characters. But then I remember when she was working with a cake on the side. So I noticed where she's using something that is like clay, but then it's edible. It was like, what's better than making something and then eating
That you
it?
can eat it, yeah.
So from there, I started learning more about fondant, which is like, to the listeners who would not know, it would be like a sugar paste where when you go to weddings and the cakes are covered, or even birthday parties for kids, where they would create these miniatures. So that's when I learned about fondant, and that's when I started getting more into cakes and baking, I would say. And then fondant was very hard to find. So that was one of the challenges where, how can I create this? But then when I cannot find the main ingredient, and then I learned how to make fondant from scratch. So everything was being made from scratch because I wouldn't find those shops. Unlike now, mashallah,
you can find everything.
It's everywhere. So those were one of the challenges, I would say, to see something on YouTube, but then not knowing how to
actually replicate that. Yeah. Well, I didn't expect that, to be honest with you, because what I find very interesting, Bader, is you started with form before taste.
Yes.
I mean, obviously you started with taste before, with in your mother's kitchen, but then when you started creation, you started with form, more tactile. Before that, before it moves into other sensory experience, such as taste and flavor. I see a curious Bader. You wouldn't stop at the obstacle. You're curious to go around that. Is that how you navigate life in general?
I would say I can twist it in a way to say that I am more of someone who doesn't usually plan. Okay. So I would see what's coming and seeing what's next. So maybe that would be one thing that came out of these, let's say, trials that I was doing. So I like to take things and make out of what's coming based on tomorrow, not based on next week or next year. I wouldn't say it's always the best, the best outcome, but then I think this is how I am as a person.
So you're very much into improvisation.
Yes, for me it's very hard to plan. I would say trying to plan this podcast was a big example because I wouldn't know what to do tomorrow to tell you what can I do 1 month from now. But it's very hard for me to plan, I would say.
Yeah, no, I mean, just for our listeners, it wasn't difficult to plan this podcast. I think, it's serendipity as well, because we were talking to our common friend, mutual friend, Khalid Shafar, and he said, you have to talk to Bader. So, I think it's me being curious about knowing all about your trade, your craft, your art, and I'm sure that our listeners, our customers, also being curious.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it wasn't challenging.
Okay.
I'm glad. What was challenging is finding amusing,
which you still
but
didn't find.
we still didn't find. It's true. But is there a specific moment where you through this, you call it what you want to call it, improvisation, experimentation, discovery. Was there a specific moment where you said, this is something I want to really pursue? This is a passion. I just stumbled over a passion that I didn't know I had, and I want to pursue. Was there a specific moment in time?
I'd say in high school, yes. In high school. Because then when I started working with Fondant, I actually opened an Instagram account, which is not what it is today, which is Chef B. It was something else. So it was called Frost It, which came from the word frosting. So it was like frost a cake. So that's when I started selling cakes, I would say, for occasions. So I would take orders from people and create these novelty cakes out of cake and fondant and sugar paste. But then the orders were picking up to the point where I was still studying and I had exams, so it was hard to keep up with orders and customers and customer service. Of course, it was all a one-man show.
Of course, yeah.
So I stopped it, and then there it turned into, I opened the other account, which as you know today is Chef B.
It's Chef B.
And I was like, okay, then maybe for now, instead of actually selling, let's teach people how to create these desserts and so on.
Right.
So that's when I opened Chef B, and I started going in the direction of teaching more, of showing people how to do desserts and so on, from what I was learning from YouTube back then. But then and there, I knew like I want to pursue this and I want to study it. But then again, it was hard to come and say, I don't want to become an engineer, a doctor, an accountant, and I want to study culinary. So
it was hard from a societal point of view, or from an expectation point of view, or from a personal
society,
point of view?
but then I would say from parents would be worried because it's not something that we're not used to. So it would be like there's so many, especially back then, you wouldn't expect what social media was, or it wasn't like Western countries where, let's say, a chef was or had the level that he would have in restaurants.
It wasn't considered to be a career.
Yes, I would say mainly. Or more of a, let's say, a career with a value, I would say. So I remember even I brought up the topic once, but like it was like, at least study college or university of something that is more known, and then you can do whatever you want later on. And that's the agreement
which
that we
explains the diploma in accounting.
Yes, which was actually supposed to be marketing as well, but then it turned into accounting, because like in the college, basically it's 4 years. So you would study, if you want to go into business, we studied 3 years of general, and then the fourth year is specialization. The issue is when the fourth year came, there weren't enough students that wanted marketing. So at my fourth year, I couldn't choose marketing because it was not an option.
Because the program was not there anymore.
So there weren't enough students to actually pursue it. So they didn't open this field. So I was stuck in a corner. I was like, I already finished 3 years. I have 1 year remaining. I'm not going to redo the whole thing. So there were 3 options, I think, finance, accounting, and business quality, which
I see.
Until today, I don't even know what it was. So I went with accounting. One goal in life, to not study anything with numbers, and I specialized.
And you ended up doing it. So again,
and I excelled at it. But
while you're at it, you better be good at it, right? But you had that marketing genes, because when I look at and I don't want to reduce your brand into Instagram account, because it's not that. It's genius.
Thank you.
It is genius behind it, and I invite everybody to connect to Chef B's account, because it is a journey not only through a culinary experience, through the fantastic pastry creations that you make, but also a good lesson in marketing, actually, if I may say so. We usually in our show we ask friends to send us questions that they would like to ask you, and often our
I'm quite worried about that.
Often our guests have that reaction. Now there's a question that comes up, but Abdullah didn't want to send it in as a voice, so he sent it to me as a text, and he asked me to read it on his behalf. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah.
But it's linked to what you were telling me and what we were talking about. The moment where you felt that this is what I want to pursue as a passion, but still the fact that you went to college, and then the last year of college is not what you really wanted.
Yeah.
Abdullah Al-Janahi, his question is, what helped you build up the courage to quit your job to pursue your passion, and how did it feel when you finally did it?
Okay, so what made me quit?
What helped you build the courage? I think he was choosing his words very carefully, right? Because, we often have moments in life when we want to change, we want to move forward differently, but we don't always have the courage to do it. And Abdullah wants to know what helped you build that courage to quit your job, and how did you feel?
I don't think it was more of a courage rather than you reach a point where you want to change, because I don't even know which job he's talking about, because I had two jobs.
Okay.
Going back, so that, the story makes more sense. I remember I received an email, because I had my Instagram account. I received an email from the institute in Lucerne,
Yeah.
where they spoke to me and they said, we want to bring you over to just do like a coverage on the university, just to show people that it exists for like a one weekend, and
Right.
you film it. So I remember saying that it would be hard to ask people to come to a university and market it when I haven't tested
Experienced
it myself.
it yourself, yeah.
So it was like, how are you selling something where you haven't really done it yourself?
Right.
So I remember asking them, would it be an option for me to come and study there? And they said, we don't give scholarships. So I apologized and I said, honestly, it would be hard to market, let's say, a
Or
university.
tell the
that
story of the university
Yes.
if you didn't live it yourself.
Yes, because it's not like a product. I'm asking you to
Correct.
go and study, to stop your life and go and study and
Yeah.
get experience at a place where I haven't tested. That is kind of hard to be done
Yeah,
with
of
like a
course.
weekend.
Yeah.
So when I asked for the scholarship, it was 100% no. So the email stopped there.
Yeah.
And that was, I would say, I had already graduated and I was still looking for a job. And then I received, I remember I got an interview to work as an accountant in Dubai municipality. And it was the first interview I was ever doing for a job. So alhamdulillah, I was very lucky, because it's quite hard to get jobs in general.
Exactly.
So I remember entering the interview, doing the interview, and I felt it in the interview that most probably it's a yes. Not because I was great. I think they were in a hurry to find the replacement. But in general, they were such a nice team. Even I remember when I left the interview, within a few hours, either it was 4 hours or it was 40 minutes. I don't remember.
Oh,
But I
wow.
received a phone call saying that it's a yes. And
Immediately afterwards.
yes,
Yeah.
and I remember he was like, my boss was, until today, one of the best bosses I've ever had. And I've only had 3 bosses in life, but in general, he was unbelievable. His name was Khalid Abdul Qadir. So although accounting was not, let's say, something that I enjoyed,
Yeah, it wasn't
he
your
made
calling,
it.
yeah.
Yes, he made it very comfortable, because he was such a great boss.
That's a rare quality in leaders, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the day that I received the call, I remember we said, okay, you know what? Tonight, let's go to a restaurant. I want to celebrate my first job, getting the job. So before reaching the restaurant, I received an email that I got accepted as a scholarship in
Lucerne.
Lucerne. So now, in one hand, you have a job
Yeah.
where they're waiting for you to sign the contract. On the other hand, you have a scholarship of
Right.
my dream, let's say,
Exactly.
my dream
This is
field.
where you could, yeah.
Yes. And I started thinking what to do. I just studied 4 years of accounting. Do I not try this? Do I not put my skills to the test? And I actually declined the scholarship. I remember.
declined
I
it?
declined the scholarship.
So that's the courage that that Abdullah is talking about.
Not more of courage, I would say more of being scared of my parents that telling me you finished 4 years of university and never testing it. I was like, okay, you know what? Let me go and try the job, because again, we say in Arabic, تبغى تحلل الشهادة.
Exactly.
So I said, you know what? I will go to the job. So I declined. I replied to the people who sent the scholarship. I said it's a no. And I actually started my job. 6 months in, I started getting flashbacks that I want to go and study there. خلاص, I tested it.
The sugar was calling you.
Yes, I tested it. Although I have a great boss and the team was great, the job was not for me.
Yeah.
Like
You could feel it.
Yes, it was very hard to sit at a desk doing numbers. I wouldn't say sit at a desk as an office job, because
Right.
it is something very normal. But to do numbers every day for me was such a hard thing. Going back to the goal where I said I never want to study numbers.
I was going to say,
And
especially
now I'm doing it.
especially that you were kind of forced into
Yes.
that final year. Yeah.
Yes. So 6 months in, I was like, you know what? Let me take a shot. Although when you reject someone, it's quite hard for them to come back. But
Yes,
then I
of
texted
course.
them and I said, is it still an option? So they actually responded. I remember that day, the Wi-Fi was not working in my room, and I was sitting on the floor next to the door. I put the blanket to sleep there to try and watch my series as I connect to the whole Wi-Fi at home. So I was sitting in bed on the floor, and I remember I received an email right then and there. It was like middle of the night. And I opened the email, and it said that we would love to welcome you for the scholarship, but this semester is full. You can come the next semester,
next one.
which is 2 months later.
Right.
I'm glad that I went to the accounting job, because I tested it. I don't want to look back and say, what if?
Exactly.
So I knew that I have creativity, but not in that field.
Right.
It wouldn't be fair to me and it wouldn't be fair to them. And I knew I always wanted to open a business in the future. So I was like, it would be hard to balance both.
Yeah.
So I quit my job. I thanked them for the opportunity. And I flew to Switzerland for a couple of months to get my grand diploma. And that was where the dreams began, I would say.
And it opened the doors.
Opened the doors.
Is it something, because you said something, I wanted to try it so that I don't regret it.
Yeah.
And then I don't ask myself, what if?
Yeah.
Is it something that you find yourself doing? You know, do you ask yourselves what if, or?
Not necessarily, but when you have done something for so long, let's say something as a college degree, it usually defines you as a person. So in life, you would say you have many milestones. Let's say school, graduating from school, college, your first job, getting married.
Right. Yeah,
there are certain values in life certain people have. So those are some of mine. So I would say in general, studying 4 years, it would be bad to not put it to the test. Like,
Correct.
okay, I studied it, but then what?
Yes.
It's not a degree where I want to put it on the wall to say I studied accounting. It's basically, okay, you know what, let me test it.
Let's try
so that I also tell my parents that
you've done this.
I tested it and you can see I'm not happy. Yani. I was coming home every day grumpy.
I'm not good for that.
So they could see it. They could see, like, when you can see in someone's face that the light is no longer shining in the face.
That's it. Yeah.
So when I told them that I'm resigning, they were not shocked, honestly speaking. And I was glad. I was like, you know
that's
what?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So they understood it and I understood it, that I also tested it myself. So I went abroad and I studied. When I came back, that's when I became a pastry chef in Emirates Flight Catering.
Right. You said that your first contact with Lucerne was to film. Or was that during your TV hosting days?
Social media, I would say, Instagram.
That was social media.
Yes.
Okay, so that was before the TV.
I did TV when I was in school and when I was in university and after that.
Yeah,
So I started TV very early, young on, I would say. Like we did the 3 TV shows that I did on different years. So, but mainly that was not for TV. It was for social media to show people, let's say, to market.
How was your TV experience?
Not for me, honestly speaking. I would say not.
Why are you saying that? Because when I see your social media activity.
That's the thing. Social media is very different. Social media, I would say, you would have the freedom of being yourself.
Yeah.
While TV is more of, you would have certain rules and protocols that you would have to stand in a certain way, talk in a certain way.
Yeah.
You usually, I would say, it's not somewhere like it's not a place where you're expressing yourself more than you're delivering news, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, of course, not a news anchor, but I mean
but
in general, like you're talking about
scripted.
yes,
it's
much more scripted.
Yeah.
Because of course, in media, there is a certain level that you need to obtain. Because at the end of the day, media is something more public rather than a specific, let's say.
But one can argue that it's the same thing with social media. You want to attain a certain level of audience.
100%, but then you do it based on what you want.
But
there isn't a director,
you have more
and a
flexibility,
producer, and
more
a topper.
autonomy.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sensing a line of like freedom, autonomy is better. Somebody who doesn't like rules is better. Somebody who wants to be more autonomous and flexible to experiment ideas. Is because I'm the two examples you gave
honestly,
me.
no, even if you'd ask my friends, they would know, like, I would never cross rules. And whatever happens, I'd be like, لا دايما على الصراط المستقيم and rules. But then going back at Abdullah's question, if I would say that was the, like, quitting my job from accounting, then again from Emirates Flight Catering, once again, 2 years and a half later, 2 years and 3 months, again, I decided where I want to now. I was working on opening my cafe, which is Burnt Orange.
Yes.
So when we were reaching the end of the time where we're about to open, I felt like I wouldn't have enough time to manage both, and it wouldn't be fair to myself,
either.
to my business, or to the job,
Right.
where you need to give
I think
100%.
that's the courage he was referring to.
Yes.
Yeah. There are moments in life where you know that it's the right move.
Yes.
This is
No,
time.
I actually didn't know that it's the right move.
But it's the right
it was
decision, maybe.
a leap of hope, I would say.
Yeah,
a leap of
exactly.
hope. I had to take a trust in myself.
You mentioned friends, and we, as I told you, we reach out for friends, and I think that they play also an important role in your life, right?
100%.
So we have another question. This time, Muhammad
You keep saying these names. I'm waiting for Khalid's question because I feel like that would be the most. But let's see.
Let's build up the anticipation, right? Let's build up the anticipation. Muhammad sent us a recording of his question, and I think you will enjoy it. So let's play it.
Do you really think that we, your friends, are supportive enough? Or do you sometimes feel like just telling us to be more supportive? Thank you.
Muhammad is not supportive at all. At all. No, honestly.
You heard it on Forward Boost. Muhammad Al-Ansari is not supportive.
No,
عذرنا يا محمد سامحنا.
Honestly, I would say Muhammad, like, all of the friends would agree, is one of the kindest friends that we have.
That's what he said. He's not going to ask you a difficult question.
يعني, him saying that he's trying to be kind, he is very kind, mashallah. Yeah, they're 100% supportive because I would say I wouldn't reach where I am today without their support. I would say friends and family both. But then I would say friends mainly. Usually I would be, when there are challenges and so on, I would seek them. Like anything that I'm going through in business and life or whatever, when you feel like it's the end of the world or something is going crazy and you reach a roadblock where you don't know how to go next, usually
they're always there.
100%.
Yeah. As your family was when you told them that accounting's not for you.
Was and is.
They were supportive, and they still are, I suppose, in your. Yeah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be surrounded by loved ones and to know that they've got your back.
Yes.
And their feedback is very important because it is the most sincere and true feedback they can give you.
Yes.
Speaking of feedback, by being a public figure, a public personality, when you put yourself out there on social media, you're opening the door for feedback. How do you interact with that? What is your relationship with feedback that you receive? Because people look what you are creating, they are following your journey, and they have an opinion.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that?
I would say there is a certain way that I would manage. People say as the more you're in the industry, the easier it gets. But I personally don't agree with that. I feel like every person has emotions and your emotions don't get cold as life moves on, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Just like, let's say, what can I give an example of? Yani, let's say loss, for example. No matter how many times you lose people or career or whatever in life, no matter how many times of your whole life when it repeats,
you can't get used to it.
You won't say that this happened, so I know I'm gonna react this way. So I would say maybe that was an extreme.
It was actually, I didn't expect that
extreme example. But I don't know how to.
No, but it's a good one to explain the point. Yes. I agree with you. Yeah.
I would say it doesn't get easier because you would say feedback, but many of them, because they are behind screens, sometimes it's criticism rather than feedback.
Yeah.
So does it get easy? Not really, but then you move on. What can you do about it? You won't always try to prove them wrong because it's impossible to have similar mindsets.
But do you pay attention to them?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because at the end of the day, I'm putting content out there so that I receive comments back.
Yeah.
And again, when we say I haven't reached here without my family and friends and followers.
Yes.
100%. Because through followers, through clients, through customers, that's where I could build my business and my brand, let's say.
Yeah. So feedback is a way of learning for you. And that's why I use the word feedback because it covers everything. It's interesting that you picked up criticism.
Because honestly, that's more than feedback.
That's more than feedback.
That's more. Exactly. Because usually, alhamdulillah, my account is, I always say I'm blessed with this. Alhamdulillah, I'm not the type where I want to do something controversial so that I fly in followers through the roof. I would rather slowly gain or let's say keep who I have when they're very nice and very respectful people.
Because also you're looking at your customer base. It's not just your social media followers. You're looking at the customers and the clients and people who will appreciate your creations and who want to come back more.
Yes. But then again, there are certain platforms where people are nicer and certain platforms where people are not as nice, for example, because not because of the people that are there, but because of, let's say, it is open to a wider audience. It's from different countries, from different cultures. So not
course.
everyone agrees to what you're doing, and that's very normal. But then again, do I always read all of the comments? 100% no. Especially, let's say, if a video has too many negative comments. Again, I repeat that I don't really do that. I'm cooking, yani. What is there to criticize?
What is there
much?
to be negative about?
But in general, yani, people always find something to pick on. But do I read all of the comments? I used to. Like when I was younger, I remember I had a target where every time I would finish all Snapchat, all Instagram, I have to reply to everyone's questions. Yeah. I remember people always used to say, tomorrow if you gain more followers and if you get more famous, I hope that you don't stop doing this. And honestly, it did stop because one, it becomes too much because there are too many comments that you cannot really finish. Two, when you take that many opinions and you start, let's say, feeding into yourself those comments, whether they're good or bad, it can affect you, let's say.
You're no longer focused. You're no longer focused on...
And you would start thinking of those things way too much. You would say, okay, this person did not like this. Let me try and fix it. If you try and fix every single comment, you will never be calm.
Yourself.
Exactly.
You're not yourself.
Yeah.
Was there a specific... because it's interesting how you embrace the feedback, you pay attention to it, whether it's positive or less positive. You look at it as an opportunity of learning, and in a way, you use it as a fuel to move forward. But was there something in particular that kind of marked you, that kind of, motivated you more than any other feedback you received, or that, la samahallah, discouraged you?
Something positive, I would say, mashallah, yani, especially on Snapchat, yani, people who send, and I always say my followers are mainly mothers, I would say, more than the younger generation.
Yeah.
But then I would say if something negative, I would say it would go back to something actually very recent. So going back to the more you are in social media, you would feel like it becomes easier. Not really. Like the last video I remember I posted on both Instagram and TikTok, which was giveaways that we did with a certain luxury brand, for example, which we are working with them for a very long time now.
Yeah. So the nuts, chocolate nuts that that will be, I remember that. Yeah.
So, mashallah, yani, the video exploded. Yeah. And I remember I had this video I had these clips in my phone for a very long time. I wasn't even planning on posting it because I don't post everything we do with them.
Yes.
But then I was like, you know what? It's been so long since I've filmed something. I have this old content. Let me just post it. So it's not even a planned video where I actually made it look good. And this is very interesting social media that changed, by the way. I'm going off topic, but that the more raw it is, the more people enjoy it rather than professionally filmed and so on. Anyway,
it's more authentic.
Yes, so that's why usually people, I think, resonate more with it. But I would say that video mainly exploded for the wrong reasons. And it reached to a point where most comments were, the comments would say, does that brand even know that you're claiming that you worked with them? So to me, it was like, are we degrading, let's say, our own people from the society, or I would say as Arab?
Yes.
And because the comments were mainly from Arab. So I would say, why are we not really picking each other up rather than we would say, does this brand even know that you work with them, or any luxury brand, let's say?
Right.
Because what is the issue of working with
exactly
with a
as if it's
brand?
like it's something that
I haven't reached ما وصلت المريخ يعني, you know? It's a brand like any other brand. Yes, it is a luxury brand, but then again, it's like any other
But what's
brand.
wrong with a luxury brand working with local Emirati talent?
Because I think
any other talent.
يعني.
It's surprising that these comments come from within our own society.
It's sad. It's sad rather than, again, there were so many positive comments. And many positive comments were replying to the negative comments. But then again, I'm like, certain comments, like you would think of, how do they think in their daily life? It's very interesting, yani, that you would say something is completely a lie just because you feel like certain brands wouldn't choose certain people to work with. But why not? We have also reached a certain level where brands want to work with us, not just that we want to work with them. So it's like a dual benefit, I would say.
Of course. It's we can talk forever about that, the perceived imposter syndrome, the self-criticism, the lack of encouragement for talents that we have among ourselves, and that's why we have this podcast, so that we can tell the stories from our region that are beautiful stories, and not to
just say that we can reach, to say we actually reached,
exactly,
and we achieved, and we're up there.
We're not claiming something that we are not.
Yes.
right? And I agree with you. Sometimes there's like a push to overdo it, as if we want to prove something. Whereas no,
It has already been proven.
it's already there. And and it's interesting because it brings up a different. A different question I wanted to ask you is, you know, the field of innovation is very wide and very diverse and very successful in our region, and we encourage innovation in all domains. Do you feel that we have? And I consider the reason I'm asking you that question because I consider your work very innovative. Very. Once again, if you're not familiar with Chef Bader's work, go on Chef B and discover it. It's really mind blowing.
Thank you.
And I'm not saying this mujamala. Do you think that we have enough innovations or enough spotlight on innovations in the culinary world currently?
100%.
We do.
100%.
Yeah. Are they spotlighted enough?
Yes.
That's
Now, yes. 100%. يعني, I'm guessing you mean in our region
Yes,
in
yes,
general.
yes, yes.
100%. يعني,
Because when we talk about pastry, specifically pastry chefs, that's a very specific, in France we say métier, right? It's not your conventional chef. You're specialized in a very niche, and it's not something. The first thing that comes to mind in our region, right? We have successful chefs using blending our cuisine with other cuisines, but you're doing it in the pastry domain.
yeah.
And that for me is very, very innovative. You're telling me that it's recognized. You're telling me that we have a lot of these innovations.
100%. Because now, not a main event passes. I'm talking about the UAE now. Passes in the UAE without at least several Emirati chefs being a part of it.
Right.
And we reached a point where it's not always going towards caterers that they're bringing from outside and so on. No, we're actually insourcing from in-house, where Emirati chefs are at a level where, mashallah, they are doing even greater than, let's say, people maybe from other regions. Several examples would be every year in the government summit that happens in the UAE every single year in Medina Jumeirah. If you check for the past 3, 4, 5 years, every year,
Emirati chefs were highlighted.
Yes, they're catering the event. And impressive.
Which is very impressive, and it's actually it's we're all grateful for that.
And you're showing them in front of world leaders.
Exactly.
There's nothing higher than that.
Exactly. Did you feel that the government support or the different organization support? We talked about luxury brands that are based here, but also other opportunities. That was a helping hand, right? Did it help you overcome what otherwise would have been an obstacle as perceptions? No, Emirati cuisine should not include this or that, or Emirati chef should not be chefs. Was that a helping hand in moving forward?
100% in terms of if you want to reach to a wider worldwide audience, I would say, with them putting a spotlight on you in their main events as a government or as a country, where they showcase your work, and let's say they're proud to show you off, I would say, to ministers and world leaders and presidents from around the world. That's where other opportunities open. That's where other countries say, okay, let's say the government of the UAE is showcasing and showing off this specific talent. So I want to work with them in my event in my country, for example.
Right.
So 100%.
So they see that
I would say they push you to reach outside the country.
Yeah. They offer a platform for exposure.
Yes, pushing people to Davos, for example.
Yes.
Out of the country as well, showcasing Emirati talent.
Do you see that the evolution of and I'm really talking about Emirati cuisine because you are an Emirati chef, right? Even though that I understood that you don't want to just limit it to just Emirati culinary art, but do you see that the evolution of the Emirati cuisine being, for lack of a better term, exported, being recognized globally, being present around the world in different cities and different events? Is this how you see the evolution of...
Definitely, and putting them out there and showcasing them in very important events would make the rest of the community and the rest of the culture want to taste that, whether it is going to the country itself to try it or even seeing it presented in regular restaurants outside the country as well.
And what is your role in that? Because I see that you also you do organize workshops and ateliers, right? Do you see a role of mentorship for young aspiring chefs in the region?
Mainly, I would say through showing achievements on social media.
Yeah.
And usually, when we want to, let's say, get motivated, we go onto social media and see what other people are doing and where they're reaching. So I am hoping that I am leaving a positive impact for younger chefs or home bakers, even home businesses, where they would see that it is a path that you can take and it does have a bright future. Whether I'm doing it from courses that I teach them one-on-one or let's say with a group of people, whether doing courses in schools, whether just showcasing certain ideas on my own platforms. I'm hoping that leaves
you are
an
inspiring
impact
others
to inspire them.
Yeah. And is it a collective effort, you with other like-minded chefs, or is it for now individual efforts by different people?
Both, I would say, whether we do it individually, whether we collaborate and do events together, certain campaigns together, whether other entities put us together, let's say.
I see.
And let's say, for example, when I did the government summit, that was the first time where we do a collective of chefs, when we were, I think, 5 or 6 Emirati chefs, where we all work together as well. So
I guess my question is there an opportunity, or maybe there is already there, but is there an opportunity of institutionalizing this, right? Like having I'll leave marketing for you, but it's like having an higher institute of Emirati culinary art, where different chefs come together, and actually it's a program, it's a series of master classes. Is there a concerted effort to institutionalize that, or at the moment it's just very kind of depending on events, depending on individual initiatives? Do you see an opportunity for this being institutionalized moving forward?
Do I see an opportunity? 100%. And I would say, I don't know if this is my opinion will change in the future, but I always said that when I grow up to be, let's say, much older than I am now, I would want to teach.
You would want
for example,
to,
because I enjoy teaching people, let's say. So is there an opportunity for it? Yes. Is there a wanting for it by the public? I would expect yes as well.
There you go. So we have all the necessary ingredients for making a program. You know, it's like, so because I think I agree with you. It's important. It's important that we challenge existing paradigms. 10, 15 years ago, we wouldn't think of, and I apologize for putting labels, but we wouldn't think about an Emirati pastry chef. It wasn't the norm. You managed to break that paradigm. It's important to be curious. It's important to have the courage of pursuing our passion, but it's also important to transmitting this. It's not something that should stop with one person's passion. So and it's something that I often talk about on our show, is how do we transmit, how do we make sure that the passion, the know-how, the story carries on. I want to go back to you. I was going to ask you about your future aspirations, but you just shared them with us. You were worrying about Khalid's question, so I'm going to play it now.
Okay.
Because it's about you, and
okay.
I mean the whole show was about you, but Khalid's question was specific about you. So let's hear him out.
Hi Bader, Assalamu alaikum. My question for today would be: what dish do you enjoy baking the most, and why?
Okay, very easy. What do I enjoy? The main dish, I would say, honestly speaking, like I do talk about pastry a lot.
Yeah.
But mainly now, rather than a pastry chef, I see myself as a chocolatier even more. So I enjoy working with chocolate more than pastry work. So I would cancel the word dish from his question. Although I think I have to reply. So I would say if I really enjoy,
this is Khalid.
I enjoy making eclairs. I really enjoy, and I do believe our eclairs are really good. But then going towards that, I enjoy creating chocolate sculptures more, like chocolate showpieces, because that's what that was my main, let's say, focus on when I studied in Lucerne in Switzerland.
And let's not forget, it started with your
With the
figurines,
yes.
right?
So any event that comes up, whether it's National Day, whether it's Emirati Women's Day, certain events that I want to usually send out a message or a story, it would be with a chocolate sculpture, like a whole sculpture that is fully made out of chocolate. So that is what I usually enjoy. But if we talk about a certain dish that has to be like a dessert, maybe I would say French eclairs, yes.
French eclairs, yeah.
Yeah.
And these chocolate sculptures, because I know it's your specialty, and from you were excited to tell us about everything you've told us over the past half an hour, but I could see your eyes kind of twinkle when you started talking about chocolate sculptures. Are these, if we talk about burnt orange cafe, are these available there, or it's there on order basically?
So sculptures, currently we don't sell them. Sculptures, I make them for social media, where I would.
Oh, okay. Oh,
like,
they're not even
film.
on offer.
No, they're not on offer. So where I would film them, and they would basically just be. Let's say there are certain events where to showcase them on social media. But then I would say the only way where we would sell them is there a certain event, a public event, a certain entity.
Yeah.
That's where we would they could commission us or commission me to do a sculpture for them. Because once again, they're very time consuming.
Yeah.
They're quite pricey.
Yes, they are.
So certain clients would be able to actually afford it, or would actually appreciate paying that much for it, I would say. But at the moment, no, to go to the cafe, you will have desserts, but you don't expect sculptures.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll still come. I will still come then. Yeah. We're about to wrap up our episode, Bader. I have two more questions to ask you. One that I want to ask you, another one that Lena would have asked you if she was here with me. My question is, what advice you would give young, aspiring Emirati chefs?
I would say, first of all, do it because you enjoy it. Because it's very important to enjoy what you're doing so that it's easier to wake up every day, to look forward to your job. Because it will become your job if you are pursuing it in that way. And try to find the main thing you are good at, so that when people think of you, they know that you are known for this specific thing. Especially that competition is becoming bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So find out what your signature is, what your field is, whether it's hot kitchen, whether it's pastry, whether it's a certain dish, whether it's events, whether it's live cooking, whether it's chocolate.
Yeah. Chocolate sculptures.
Chocolate sculptures. So it will take a while to find out what you're mainly good at. So I would say I have been doing pastry and desserts and so on for so long, but then I recently figured out that I'm actually into chocolate, let's say. So it can take a while, and it's okay for it to take a while.
Very sound advice. And the question we love asking at the end of our every episode is, what would you tell your younger Bader, the 13 years old Bader who was baking with his mom and claiming that it was his cake?
The lie's worth.
It's worth lying.
No, I would say mainly there is a world out there that you wouldn't expect that it exists. To me, it's the chocolate world. I never knew that such a thing existed. So I would say no matter what things you do that are right or wrong, there isn't anything that you'd really regret on because of where we have reached today.
Thank you, Bader. Thank you for sharing your story with us, your passion, and your chocolate. We can't wait to taste them, and for taking us on this culinary journey. I mean, pursuing your passion, and congratulations.
Thank you.
On the success. This has been Forward Moves, hosted by me, Raja Haddad, a conversation about the successful journey of Chef Bader Najeeb. If you like our show, please rate us with 5 stars, download it, and share it with your friends. Our producer today was Angel. We are recording at the Potster Studios. Until then, keep on moving forward.